Let's step away from opinions for a moment. Because when it comes to Israel, almost everyone already has one. Strong opinions, emotional reactions, fixed positions. But what if we're asking the wrong question? What if this isn't just about politics or history or even right and wrong? What if the real story is psychological? Why does one country trigger such intense global reactions? Why does the conversation around Israel feel more emotional, more polarized, more absolute than almost any other geopolitical issue? In this video, we're not taking sides, we're breaking down a pattern. A pattern shaped by history, identity, media, and human psychology. Because sometimes what we feel about a conflict tells us more about ourselves than the conflict itself. Let's drop the illusion for a second. In 2021, during the events in Sheikh Jarrah, videos started spreading online. Families being forced out of their homes, confrontations on the streets, raw moments captured on phones and uploaded within seconds. Within hours, those clips were everywhere. Berlin, London, New York. People who had never been there, never experienced the situation firsthand, suddenly felt something strong. Not confusion, not curiosity, but a kind of immediate moral reaction. And that's where things get interesting. Because what people reacted to wasn't the full reality. It was a version of it, a frame, a story that arrived already shaped, already emotional, already loaded with meaning. And once that story enters your mind in that form, your reaction feels natural, automatic, as if it came from you. But it didn't. We are being programmed, not in a dramatic, conspiratorial way, but in a slow, consistent, almost invisible process that's been happening for decades. Your reaction to certain images, certain words, certain conflicts was built over time, reinforced, repeated, normalized. For years, narratives around Israel were constructed through traditional media, political messaging, and selective coverage. Not necessarily lies, but not the full picture either. Certain angles were highlighted, certain details were repeated, certain emotions were encouraged: security, survival, occupation, injustice. Each narrative told a different story, but all of them had one thing in common. They were designed to make you feel something specific. And humans don't respond to raw data. We respond to stories. If you show someone numbers, they think. If you show them a face, a child, a moment of fear or loss, they feel. And feeling is faster than thinking, stronger than thinking. And once emotion kicks in, the brain doesn't go looking for balance, it looks for confirmation. So over time, people don't just learn information about a conflict, they internalize a narrative about it, a mental shortcut, a lens through which every new event is interpreted. And that's why when something happens, the reaction feels immediate, not because the event is fully understood, but because it fits into a story that's already there. Now here's where the shift happens. For decades, those narratives were controlled. Information flowed from the top down. Major media institutions decided what you saw, how you saw it, and when you saw it. The story was curated before it ever reached you. But that system is breaking. Today, a 30-second clip can reach millions before any official narrative even forms. A single video can bypass editors, governments, and entire media structures. And once it spreads, it's no longer just information. It becomes a signal, a trigger. And the audience doesn't just consume it, they react, they share, they amplify, they become part of the narrative itself. This is narrative acceleration. The story doesn't wait anymore. It doesn't go through filters. It hits you raw, fast, and emotionally charged. And by the time context arrives, the reaction is already locked in. That's why the same event can produce completely different reactions in different parts of the world. not because people are seeing different realities, but because they're interpreting the same reality through different narratives that were built long before that moment. And now, those narratives are colliding. Traditional media is no longer the only voice. Social media isn't just an alternative, it's a battlefield. Competing versions of reality exist at the same time, in the same space, reaching the same audience. And the brain isn't built to handle that kind of conflict smoothly. So what happens? Tension, polarization, emotional spikes that feel bigger than the events themselves. Because when two narratives clash in real time, people don't slow down to analyze, they double down. They defend the story they already believe. And this is where perception becomes more powerful than reality. Not because reality doesn't exist, but because access to it is always filtered through a story, a frame, a perspective that shapes how it's understood. So when people react strongly to Israel, when debates explode, when emotions run high across countries and cultures, it's not just about what happened in that moment. It's about everything that came before it. The stories people were told, the images they remember, the emotions that were reinforced over time. And once you see that, you start to realize that the real battlefield isn't just physical, it's psychological. Now here's where things get more intense. Because not every conflict in the world creates this kind of reaction. There are wars happening right now, crises unfolding in multiple regions, people suffering in ways that never trend, never go viral, never reach global attention. And yet, when it comes to Israel, everything feels amplified. So the question isn't just how narratives work. The real question is, why this conflict? Why does this one specifically trigger such a strong, almost automatic reaction across the world? The answer is uncomfortable, but simple. This isn't just a political conflict, it's an identity trigger. In 2021, during the events in Sheikh Jarrah, the videos didn't just show a situation, they showed something symbolic, a family, a home, a moment of displacement. And instantly, people didn't just see what was happening, they interpreted it through something deeper. History, religion, belonging. And that changes everything. Because when identity is involved, people don't analyze, they react. You're no longer looking at a situation as an observer, you're experiencing it as something that touches who you are, what you believe, or what you feel connected to. And once that switch happens, the brain stops treating the event as information and starts treating it as a moral signal. Something is wrong, something is unjust, something needs a reaction. And that reaction doesn't stay local, it spreads. Because this conflict is tied to something bigger than geography. Jerusalem alone carries meaning for billions of people, not politically, but spiritually, emotionally, historically. It's not just a place on a map, it's a symbol, and symbols move faster than facts. A small incident in a location like that doesn't stay small. It becomes charged, loaded, interpreted as something larger than itself. And once that happens, the reaction is no longer proportional to the event. It becomes exponential. That's why the same type of footage, if it came from a place with no symbolic weight, wouldn't create the same effect. It might get attention, but it wouldn't create that level of intensity. Because intensity doesn't come from the event alone. It comes from what the event represents. And Israel, whether people realize it or not, sits at the center of multiple overlapping identities: religious identity, historical identity, political identity, each one with its own narrative, its own memory, its own emotional charge. So when something happens there, it doesn't activate one audience, it activates multiple audiences, all at once. Different groups, different perspectives, different interpretations, reacting to the same moment in completely different ways, but with the same level of intensity. And that creates something unstable. Because now you don't just have one narrative spreading, you have multiple narratives colliding. And when narratives tied to identity collide, the result is almost always volatile. Not because people are irrational, but because identity isn't flexible. It doesn't negotiate easily. It doesn't respond well to contradiction. If something challenges your identity, your instinct isn't to reconsider, it's to defend. And that's exactly what happens on a global scale. Now add something else to the equation: visibility. Every image, every video, every clip coming out of this conflict doesn't just get seen, it gets interpreted instantly by millions of people, each through their own lens. And the more symbolic the content is, the faster it spreads. A child running, a family arguing, a moment near a religious site. These aren't just visuals, they're triggers. And once triggered, the reaction becomes hard to reverse, because emotion locks in perception. You don't go back and say, maybe I misunderstood. You double down, you share, you reinforce the narrative. And now something else happens. That emotional reaction starts to translate into real-world impact. Donations increase, political pressure builds, governments respond, media coverage intensifies, and suddenly what started as a moment becomes a chain reaction. This is where identity turns into power, because when millions of people feel something strongly enough, it doesn't stay emotional, it becomes influence. And influence has consequences: economic, political, strategic. So when you look at this conflict, you're not just looking at events on the ground, you're looking at a system where identity, symbolism, and visibility combine to create reactions that are bigger than the events themselves. And that's why this is the ultimate lab. Not because it's the only conflict that matters, but because it's the one where everything converges. Narratives, identity, emotion, attention, all in one place, all at the same time. And once you understand that, you realize that what you're watching isn't just a conflict, it's a psychological chain reaction happening in real time. All right, now let's take this one step further. Because what we're seeing right now isn't just a shift in media, it's a shift in power. For decades, the system was clear. Narratives were controlled. Information moved from the top down. A handful of institutions decided what the world sees, how it sees it, and when it reacts. Governments, major media networks, political entities, they didn't just report reality, they shaped it. But that system is collapsing. And what's replacing it is not necessarily better. It's faster, it's more chaotic, and it's far more dangerous. During the Al-Aqsa Electronic Gate events, something unusual happened. Videos spread before any official explanation could catch up. No framing, no filtering, no delay. Just raw, emotional content hitting millions of people at the same time. And the reaction? Immediate, global, volatile. Not because everyone suddenly understood the situation, but because the system no longer waits for understanding. It reacts first, it spreads first, it locks perception before context even has a chance to exist. This is narrative acceleration, and once it starts, it's almost impossible to reverse. Because here's the problem. When millions of people react emotionally at the same time, you don't just get attention, you get pressure. Pressure on governments, pressure on institutions, pressure on economies. A viral moment doesn't stay digital, it moves. Donations spike within hours. NGOs receive funding tied directly to emotional waves. Political figures are forced to respond, not based on full analysis, but based on public sentiment that's already forming in real time. Markets react, alliances shift, policies adjust. Emotion becomes leverage, and leverage has value. This is where things become irreversible. Because once decisions are made under pressure, you can't rewind them. A a statement released, a sanction applied, a budget increased. These are not temporary reactions, they are structural moves, and many of them start with something as simple as a clip, a moment, a frame. Now here's the part most people don't see. The old system had flaws, yes. It controlled narratives, it filtered reality, but it also slowed things down. It created friction, time to verify, time to analyze, time to think. The new system removes that friction completely. And that's not freedom, that's exposure. Exposure to a constant stream of emotionally charged signals that demand reaction, not reflection. And this is where the real question begins. If the old system is collapsing, what replaces it? Because Gen Z isn't just rejecting the old model, they're building the new one. A system where trust is decentralized, where authority is questioned, where every piece of information is challenged, dissected, and redistributed in seconds. That sounds powerful, and it is, but it's also dangerous. Because when there's no central filter, the algorithm becomes the filter. And algorithms don't care about truth, they care about engagement. What spreads is not what is most accurate, but what is most effective emotionally. What triggers reaction, what keeps people watching, sharing, responding. And that creates a new kind of environment, one that looks free, but can easily become a digital prison. A system where you think you're choosing what you see, but in reality, you're being guided by invisible patterns, reinforced by content that matches your beliefs, surrounded by narratives that feel true simply because they are repeated, not by institutions this time, but by the system itself. And here's the danger. This system is self-reinforcing. Every reaction feeds it, every share strengthens it, every emotional spike trains it, and over time it becomes more precise, more targeted, more effective, until the line between reality and perception becomes almost impossible to separate. Now, bring this back to the lab. Israel is not just a conflict inside this system, it's the place where this system is tested at its highest intensity, where identity, sacredness, media, and global attention all collide under maximum pressure. Every narrative is amplified, every reaction is multiplied, every consequence is accelerated, and that makes it volatile. Because when you combine sacred identity with instant global amplification, you create something unstable by design. A system where small triggers can lead to massive reactions, where perception can move faster than reality, where decisions can be made before understanding even begins. And in a system like that, mistakes are expensive, not just emotionally, but economically, politically, strategically. This is no longer just about who is right or wrong. This is about understanding the machine, how narratives are formed, how identity amplifies them, how media accelerates them, and how the world responds, often without realizing why. Because once you understand that, you start to see something unsettling. The reactions you thought were spontaneous are structured. The emotions you thought were personal are influenced. The reality you think you see is filtered. And the system behind it, still evolving, still accelerating, and potentially irreversible. So, the next time you see a video, a headline, a moment that makes you react instantly, pause. Not to ignore it, but to recognize it. Because in this new world, perception is not just part of reality, it is the battlefield. And right now, that battlefield is more volatile than ever.